the responsibility. I think that there is responsibility for parents, and there is accountability, and there are what are the consequences? Are the consequences something that's served up by society, by the system? That's the question. And what is the purpose? Is the purpose to deter? Because to deter for me means also there's something that needs to be put in place so that this doesn't happen again. Otherwise, it's really to throw away.
Let's be the change we want to see about. We are links in the chain. We are links in the chain. An important wagon on a moving train. In this we're all the same. We're links in the
Hey, welcome to Working It Out Across Generations. I am one of your co-hosts, Dr. Lynn.
I'm Justin.
And we are really excited to talk about today's topic. If you've joined us before, you know we talk about all things conflict, big and small. And if you're new to us, hey, buckle up, get ready, because this topic is a hot one.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about should parents or caregivers be arrested for their children's crimes. I know it's another heavy topic. We apologize, but we just love the deep, dark stuff, right? Like we want to get to the real meat of these conversations, right? But I think that this topic came to be because we're definitely seeing, especially here in the United States, a rise in parents or caregivers being given consequences for their child's crimes, right? Especially when it comes to crimes of mass shootings or child neglect, anything of that nature. We are starting to see more adults being locked up for their role in some of these things that have taken place. And I think the main question is, is this a step in the right direction? Are we, doing something honorable here? Are we doing the right thing here? Are we really putting responsibility in the right places, or are we just looking to lock up more people?
Folks up.
Because this is clearly, a country that profits off of that.
That's right.
So,
Absolutely.
and that's that, I don't want anybody coming for it. We all can agree that that's just, how we do things in the United States, right? So, really, really interesting topic, and I'm excited to get into it a little bit further. I think for me, just as a base level belief, right? I do believe that for certain crimes, for certain things, that parents should be receiving some sort of consequence for their role, right? I think that especially in the realm of mass shootings, unfortunately, I hate how much these events have become normalized in our country, and how much that, they're taking place even right now as we're speaking, right? But we are starting to see more parents getting responsibility put on them for their role, as parents are the ones, not all the time, but we've seen before, that gave their child the gun, gifted it to them at a certain age, right? It might have been passed down through generations or something like that. Kids learning how to shoot young and stuff like that, and being exposed to that young. And so thinking about just the weight that comes with planting those seeds, I think really is the main reason why I'm at least happy to have this conversation and bring this out forward, because there's some real seeds planted there that I think don't get talked about enough, that obviously, to be quite frank, inform later actions or later beliefs or things of that nature, right? There's a lot of things that go unchecked in households, as we know, and a lot of conversations that are such, one and dones and things. And so just to think about what that does, ultimately to a family, not just to that one person who's committing the atrocity, I think it's important to name just everyone's experience that could possibly be going through something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one, I think, because as a parent, I think about all of the different situations that can really affect. I do think that accountability and responsibility is key. And in the places where you can see that they dropped the ball, absolutely there needs to be some kind of accountability, whether it's resting and locking up. I mean, I'm not positive, but I do think in some instances that should at least be on the table. But I think about all of the things that affect. So when you have multiple children, right, or if you're a single parent, and there are so many things, parents also, just if you are not wealthy, you are working and you are not always there. And we don't give enough emphasis on mental health services. Sure. So you don't know. Most of parents, you are not educated. You can read all you want to them books. Most of the time, people just read them in the beginning anyway. You try to go all along, but you can do all the reading you want. It's the time that you're able to spend getting to know your children that is going to be much more informative. But then even when you know them, they're struggling with something. How do you even get the answers? That is really difficult as well. But if you are getting your child a gun for their birthday and they went out and maybe shot or whatever, and then you let them have access to your gun, their gun, and you're not paying attention to anything that's going on, well, then I think you are absolutely accountable. Or you're ignoring, you're saying, oh, I didn't really, my child wouldn't do this. I didn't really think that. Then I think that you're going to need to face some real consequences with your child. But I do recognize again that we're in a country that would rather lock folks up than help them. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's the difficult part for me, because as a parent, I absolutely do not want to be held accountable for most of my kids' mistakes, because we're here to make mistakes, number one. I know we're talking about the real serious ones. Yeah. I get that. But we're here to make mistakes and learn from them. And I do not want you to be held accountable for individuals who are individuals. If they were mini-me's, they were exactly like me, and I had everything to do with that, then fine. But people are here to be who they are. So I think it's a very complex question that I'm really happy that we are exploring. So we always do a question, right, for both of us. So the question is, when should a parent be released from the responsibility of being held accountable for their child's mistakes? When should that be? So that's a really good question. I think as long as they are under, to be honest, in my view, just because of the brain, right, not being formed fully until like about 26, something like that. I think 21. I think anything under 21, you gotta look at how did they get there, right? And unfortunately, our children are making some really fatal and serious mistakes at younger and younger ages.
That's a good point.
And so you cannot release yourself from that liability, in my view. You have to, as hard as it is, because listen, I made mistakes, right, that I know my parents would not want to be held accountable for, even though as I look back, I will say some of that was on you, but the actions I chose to do those actions, because that's the other thing. It's about choices, right, that our kids are making. But are we
sure.
are we equipping them to make the best choices, right? I think that that's big. I don't know. What's your thought on that
I think
question?
I agree. I think that's the first time I've ever been asked that question. So really, really interesting question. But I think to a degree, I definitely agree with you that you know under 21, you could even maybe throw 18 for certain crimes, right? I think the crime really does play a really big role for me as far as how we go handing out the consequences. So I think it's harder to say for mass shootings compared to child neglect, as we talked about, right?
Right.
Like I think it's so much more just like individualized to the situation, because there really are times where parents have no role in any of this whatsoever. It's really like, let's say their child just got in with the wrong crowd, right? And they start
Right.
hanging out with kids that got them doing dumb stuff, or start taking advice and word from other adults, right? That could not, really speak to their experience too well, or something like that, which I think that happens, even in like school itself, or even in other places itself. And so, really, really hard to say as far as like the age and things like that. But I think that when we look at the nature of crimes, when we look at really like people's roles and stuff, then I think it's a little bit easier to say,
Well,
okay, you should get this for
right.
your role in this.
Right. It's interesting because I know there was recently, a group of kids who beat up a woman, pregnant woman. She was trying to defend her child. I believe they were elementary school or whatever. And one of the things that happened is the young people who had that fight just went on social media to not even take any responsibility. And so people were saying, well, it's the parents should be held as much accountable, because look at you, this is what they believe, right? They're not even sorry, they're not remorseful about it. And so then it's everybody should go. Is that the responsibility? I think that there is responsibility for parents, and there is accountability, and there are what are the consequences? Are the consequences something that's served up by society, by the system? That's the question. And what is the purpose? Is the purpose to deter? Because to deter for me means also there's something that needs to be put in place so that this doesn't happen again. Otherwise, it's really to throw away. It's not to deter. Yeah, and that's where we don't do our best as a society. That piece we call. I don't know if we're even saying that prisons rehabilitate anymore, because we know that that's not true, right? We know, that's what absolutely, absolutely. But that is
Does anyone who thought that? What world are we living in?
shout out to any of the current prisons that are actually working.
Absolutely,
That's effort, but we know generally that's
for sure.
yeah. But so that's what I'm saying. So now we're going to continue to throw parents into um that it's not going to help them be any better when they get out. Or is it that you're going after the really heavy crimes so you can just throw them away and not have to deal with it all because they failed? There are a lot of places where parents fall down, and it is not an easy thing. It's probably the hardest thing that you'll ever do, and especially because you're responsible for other human beings in so many ways. And then at the same time, though, I don't think we should be left off the hook for responsibility, if even if it means then you really do need to learn how to parent better.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that as far as like I don't think you're gonna learn how to be a better parent in prison, like and especially going in in this way. You know what I mean? Like paying for someone else's, crimes at the end of the day. It is still someone else's crimes at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, just really, really interesting as far as, what punishment looks like and who it goes to and for what.
What? You feel like what?
I feel like if we are talking about something where lives are lost, you have to go in as a parent.
Yeah.
Especially under 21 or like something like that. I really appreciated that age distinction as far as like really like, when a parent's words and when their, values and things that they're instilling in their children have way more of a effect or way more of a seed planting kind of role as opposed to when they're over 21 and things like that. They're watering whichever seeds they want. Definitely there should be a fat consequence for lives lost if your child's under 18. I think so.
But
or
even
21.
if we're not, so we're talking about arresting parents, which I get, but even if it's not an arrestable offense, is our parents responsible? I think that.
Well, give me an example.
Yeah. I mean, if your child's a bully, right?
Yeah,
I think the parents responsible. I don't
Yeah,
even know
yeah,
why
yeah.
I put that one up. I just think, and I'm thankful to parents who have responded well to being told and shown that their child is bullying. Right? I think that is your responsibility.
Yeah, but if you're a parent that hasn't responded well, you're a lame in my eyes. Absolutely,
and
1,000%.
And you should be held accountable.
You're a bully as well. You raised a little crap head. I would love to use another word, but we are under another network, so I can't say the word I'd love to. But 100%. As far as like, I think that's where things like expulsion should be way more like, put on the table or a fat suspension, something like that, but something that has to hit the parent. I agree with that.
Yeah, but I also feel like then there has to be, first of all, recognition around everything. Like a lot of times bullying happens in schools. Schools need to have some kind of system where the parent-child can come together and with the school and really be able to put in place plans for this not to continue to happen. But again, then we also have to go to how are we doing around mental health? We are not doing well around that too.
True.
And that can come from that. But I do think that who's going to do all the work to hold parents accountable for things that aren't criminal? I think that's just not going to happen, and that we need to do a better job around giving support to parents so that they can get the tools that they need to be better parents, because they're only parenting off of how they were parented and maybe a step up and maybe two if they've really done some work. But the arresting, I feel like it's about I don't know that it's about deterring. I feel like it's just, again, about we just don't want to deal with you. You did a terrible job, right? And this is what happened as a result. And so we want to get rid of you and we want to get rid of your child.
Is that really a bad thing?
Yeah, that's such a good question.
I don't see that as a bad thing if your child shot up a school. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't see that as a bad thing if they shot anything up, and if there's multiple deaths on the line here. Like, to me, it just seems like, what are we rehabilitating at that point? Your kid's already going for life. At that point, it's like, yes, you should have a consequence. But I'm saying, like, at that point, what are we trying to put into them after something like that? As opposed to just like, what if that's like how it should be done?
Yeah, that's so good.
Like, if you gave that kid the gun, you absolutely should be going away. Mm-hmm. Like, literally, in my eyes, there should be like 1.5 years per death that was taken with your gun for you, the parent. But I don't know. And
so just putting them away, I think that I think that this is a society that we live in, right? And the society that we live in does not have things in place
For sure.
to rehabilitate.
For sure.
So I think that what we're left with when this is the decision that we're making is either arrest or not. And if we do, then we know we're just getting rid of you. We don't see any redemption in you. We certainly, your child is the one that committed the crime. So if it's a life sentence or whatever, that we've already said that there's no redemption in the outside world, right? Outside society. There might be some within the prison if you really
right.
You've got one that's really working on these things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's such a tough one because is it so bad then that you would be going away because this is what you did with your shot at being a parent? But then where it also can get complicated is if you have multiple kids and this is the only one like that, right?
That is tough.
That is tough.
That's tough.
So this whole thing, right?
Still got to go, but that's tough.
So this whole thing, this isn't the same thing, but what I'm saying is the Reiners, Rob Reiner and his wife,
Damn,
right?
rest in peace.
Okay, yes, please. And what a horrible situation, right? But the other kids, this is not who they are, right?
They don't
this
have
is not
those
how they've
struggles.
lived their lives. This
For
is
sure.
not the choices that they've made. So had that been someone else, not not his parents' lives that he took, right? Would there be looking at, well, what did you do, right, to cause this in this child? Or would they be looking at, well, you got two other kids, and I know they're adults now, but I'm just using a scenario that, let's say they were younger, right? You got two other kids where nothing like this has happened, and so do we lock you up with the intent of making you better to return to them? Do we just say, no, we're not going to lock you up because you got, I mean, there's a lot there, I think. And I think that when you start looking at parenting and start giving out charges that you gotta really know what you're doing and why, and it's not just to throw people away. I think that is though part of the sentiment, but this is it's a tough one. There's no question about it. I think that this is not one of the easy things that you think about, but then I understand why people are cheering. Like, yes, lock them up. They should be locked up for a child being raised like this, that they would do something like this.
Yeah, I think that this is a really tough one because the age, I really love that you brought the age thing in, right? Like under 21, right? Like, yeah, you're still, your brain, you're still taught to just like, be parented, right? You're still in way more of a parented lifestyle when you're under 21, even if circumstances are hard or different or whatever it is, right? And so it's tough. And I don't want to sound insensitive. I don't want to sound, disconnected from empathy here, right? Like these are such difficult situations to even have to be in, let alone to deal with how we're going to give consequences, right? And so...
But I also think that it's like, okay, 21, I mean, like, at what age am I not responsible for you? Like, I'm your parent for your life, but really, I think, like, it's, I don't know.
I mean, as far as the law, like, I mean, yeah.
As far as the law, I know that.
Yes,
I know the law.
No, I know what you mean.
What are we talking about in terms of this society, in terms of how long parents are on the hook for their their adult children's choices? And I know they're not children. You know what I'm saying? Yes,
yeah, for sure.
But they did this horrible thing and they were 30. Am I still on the hook for that?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think
it's difficult.
Yeah, it is.
And especially with the degree of crime, it becomes difficult.
Yeah.
But everyone deserves that fair investigation to see whose role is what, and then I think it'll be easier from there at least to start to, put consequences in place. Because think about back to the Reiner thing, right? Like, they are completely, the other two kids are completely separate from him and his actions, right? And then he was also like 30 something, right? And I think he might have still been in their care as well. It's difficult, but I mean, that's murder. Like that's,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter the state you're in, like lives were lost, right? And it's way past like, like reputation or whatever. Like that's your life.
Right.
And so I just, it's tough, but.
So should it only be murder that we're arresting parents for?
No.
So I think that it is something, once again, are we paying attention? Because when we went to research this, we didn't really even know, right, how much it was happening. So are we paying attention to what is happening with regard to this issue? And as parents, how much are you willing to take responsibility for? I think that there are parents who don't want to take responsibility for anything that their child does. We see that most certainly. There are parents who do take responsibility and do everything to make sure that their children have the right information and make the right choices, and then it could still happen. I'm not saying it could happen that they could do a mass shooting. I'm just saying that they could make some really bad choices that could end up getting them in trouble with the law. And so then are those parents responsible? It's a huge step that I think that we've taken without really having the necessary conversations about it. And so it's just kind of left up to the laws and law enforcement, as opposed to really thinking this through and really, without trying to get off the hook, but what's the best way to deter, if that is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's fair. These are really, really good and tough questions.
So, I mean, coming up, generationally speaking, first of all, we don't have all the access to all of the information sources that we have today. We didn't have that, right? We had the news, and it was 3 channels, and then it was gossip, which was always good for something.
Good little brain rot.
Something for storytelling or whatever, right? Scaring the life out of you, all of those kinds of things. So this wasn't something that we saw. Although I will say, I can honestly say that it's not an idea that is new to me. That I think that it, out of reaction and horror, that I certainly had heard parents from time to time saying they should lock up whatever the deal was. They should lock up the parents with them because they're the ones responsible for the child doing it. So I can say that I heard that a couple of times, that as a sentiment that people were expressing that thought. I don't remember any real conversations about, well, how would that happen, or if folks were really serious, or what would you propose? But I don't think that it's a new idea. I think in acting on it is a new thing. And certainly for my generation, I know parents were, like, you went to the parents for everything.
Yeah.
And everybody seemed to want to be your parent. And some people brag about that growing up. I hated it growing up. I don't want to be accountable to every adult that's in my life, but that was the way it was. Certainly in the Black community, that's the way it was.
What a terrible way to live.
Yeah. Like I said, some people think it was great. I don't know that they thought it was great.
Gosh.
I don't know that they thought it was
Oh my gosh.
I don't know that they thought it was great when they were growing up, but hindsight, looking back, for that village mentality, but I think that I love the idea, the concept of the village and the community, But what I didn't like was that the adults in my village community had no skills on how to talk to me like I was a human being, right? That like I had anything to add to the conversation, like I had any kind of brain in my head, that even as a child that I could contribute in some way. And so for me, I didn't like that whole mentality when it was not in my favor. And what I mean in my favor is there's one thing to be able to walk down your street and know that every adult on that block cares about you. And so if something happened, or you lost your money on the way to the store, like you would have that help. That's cool. But everybody knows your parent, and the thing that you are going to hear is, I'm going to tell your mother, or wait till I tell your mother, I'm going to tell your mother. I mean, I can see both sides to that, but I know that in my time, in our generations, we had more of that accountability. So I think that parents were really on the hook for how your child behaved in public.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like we're probably missing some of that in my generation, like that real village, communal kind of, honestly, raising of a child, right? And so I know for me, I speak as someone who had a village, has a village now, and that's definitely, I'd say, a big reason as to why I'm not like in trouble or any sort of thing like that, right? Because, I also know my village is made up of people of all walks of life and all backgrounds, and then, all different thought patterns, and they've come to different conclusions on issues and stuff. So I feel like I'm constantly getting stretched, right? And I'm constantly getting challenged in a good way, right? And that was my upbringing, right? It was that, I heard something and felt something and whatever, and obviously as a human probably had the urge to do something about it, and I went to the adults in my life to just do some consulting of like, am I crazy for feeling this, or is this a normal human thing, or whatever's going on? And so I think a lot of our youth are missing that, to be quite frank. And I think a lot of our youth are being placed into the wrong hands, right? I genuinely think not everybody should be a teacher. So if I don't think everybody should be a teacher, I really don't think everyone should have kids. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's really different. It's difficult because it's about, who are the people you're surrounding yourself around. I feel like that's one of the hardest things about being a parent, from what I've heard, right, is the constant mirror that's put up to you, right, of as far as like how you're living your life, what you're thinking, doing, and or lack thereof is seeping into your children and into your legacy, to be quite frank. And there's people who have taken that very loosely. And that's a very big responsibility, and I don't think it should take casualties to get to that point where you see it as that important, like where your seeds are that potent for your children, or the children you're taking care of. And so really, really, really difficult, but I would just say, as someone who had a village, I'm so grateful for my village.
But even with a village, you made mistakes. We all did,
100%. I made mistakes. 100%. 100%. But
I did with the village.
I mean, yeah, but they'd be even worse. And we like, it's very clear that in these grand worst of crimes, these people and or kids don't have a village.
Right. They don't have
so I can only advocate from just a place of having done it, but also we've seen time and time again, it's the kid that's bullied. It's the kid that doesn't feel safe in their home. Right. It's the kid that doesn't have that outlet outside of school or home, the two places that a kid spends most of their time, but also, they need other stuff. They may not have that other stuff.
Or someone to talk to.
Someone to talk, all of these things, right? And they all matter. And I think a parent putting their foot down, saying, these things matter, we're going to put these things in place in your life. Sometimes you may not even like it, right? If it's a sport I'm putting you into or something I'm putting you into, right? But damn it, I'm telling you, it's going to keep you out of trouble.
Right.
And this is going to be one of the best things for you long term, as far as, socially and just all the things, right? And so I played sports growing up. Like, I'm grateful for all the areas in which I was able to escape outside of some of the areas I couldn't escape, right? But not every kid has that, and I think that it's also not every kid's responsibility to build that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
very difficult, but
if we're looking at this topic, right, we want to talk about why possibly, give you 3 reasons why it actually might be a good thing to hold parents accountable in this way of arresting them for the crimes of their
100%. First thing I said here was they planted the seed for these future actions. Very, very difficult pill to swallow, and yet I do believe that's very true. So we've talked a lot about, guns and things of that nature so far, right? I think that there's a way to go about, I guess, shooting or introducing your children to guns, right? I don't think we need to be passing down generational guns to our 8-year-olds to say, hey, you got to learn how to, whatever at 8. I don't think that's necessary, right? However, a lot of people do that, right? This is a country where a lot of people do that, and I mean, it's tough, but those early years, right? All of those years, I'd say from, birth to like 15, 14, right? But even like 6 to 12, right? I'd say, kids' brains are really just sponges. They're really just trying to absorb everything that they possibly can and everything that they're seeing and everything they're doing. And they're trying to get that, especially from the people they trust most, which often is their parents and things of that nature. And so I think there's just a way to introduce all of these difficult topics. But when it comes to, gun violence or violence amongst other people, beating up a pregnant woman, like what kind of shit is that? I've never heard of something like that, right? But there was a seed planted there, or a conversation that was not had enough, where a foot was not put down enough. And I think that part is fully on a parent.
Yeah, I think that the seeds are planted and you really actually intended to grow the full plant. So that's on you. Also, you are gifting them with this automatic rifle, and what is a child
or handgun
need with an automatic rifle? If they're hunting, yes, but are they okay to do that? I think that you gotta really pay attention
for sure
to the child. It shouldn't just be a rite of passage.
For sure, because not everyone is like evil, but people just have like addictive personalities. So like they could just get addicted to guns or to violence or to whatever it is, right? So I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great point.
Yeah.
Next, I would say money can't undo or lessen the impact of certain crimes. Now, I think this goes into so many different areas, right? As far as like, how we can possibly come to settlements, right? We see that all the time. Like certain people want a certain amount paid to them, so, and they'll just sweep it under the rug. Pay me and I'll sweep it under the rug. Or honestly, the way that bonding out goes, right? Certain prices placed there as far as how people can get out, right? And how that works. And so I think it's just one of those things where, when a life was taken, there's just no amount of money that can take away from that. Right, you can't bring it back. And that's just, the effects that has on the other people around them, right? The ripple effect is just so much more longer lasting than I think we really give credit to or really real acknowledgement to. I think we're so used to death and so seeing death all the time that, yes, we recognize it's a natural part of life, but we also sometimes can excuse the way that it happened and name it in the way of it's just how life goes, or like, whatever it is. And I just think that
you're gonna lose some lives.
Right. And I just don't think any amount of money could really could bring that life back, could bring life back into that family. You know, and I think that there are just certain things where you got to do the time.
Yeah.
You did the crime. It don't matter how much money you have. You can't pay for that. You have to do the time. You have to pay with real, like, you know, hopefully productive isolation and rehabilitation. So. That's what I would
I
say
mean,
there.
it's interesting because I've seen cases where the parent has not been held responsible and the child is doing that crime, and it's just it's hard to really look at that, and so
It's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. And then lastly, parents tend to be accomplices in a lot of these crimes, right? We've seen this before, right? And I think that it comes from a very human place of wanting to protect your child,
Right.
wanting to be there for your child, right? As long as you have a hand on them or the situation as a parent, feeling like you could possibly get them out of that situation. However, what are we teaching them at that point, right? That, like, they don't have to face consequences for wrongdoings, or that you somehow think you are above the law or could finesse your way out of, you know, them having to deal with what they've done. I just think that, you know, parents, it comes from a good place, right? And I know that it's gotta be we've seen this before, right? But that's gotta be one of the hardest things ever, like turning your child in, or just saying, like, I'm not helping you. Like, I can't help you. This is insane. Like, I don't want this anywhere near me, right? I think that's one of the hardest things you can do. And I mean, if you really had nothing to do with it, you didn't plant any seeds, you did, like, you know, someone has to pay for that. Like, I'm really taking it to the extreme of, you know, lives lost, because this is really where we see it most, as far as, you know, parents getting their own in these kinds of scenarios. But I mean, I take pride in doing the hard thing. It would be, I'm not there, but, you know, I mean, if I had nothing to do with it, really nothing to do with it, you're over 21, you're like 30 something then, it's like, what did I do? I put them in school, I did this, I did that, like, I didn't house them, I didn't put them somewhere, I didn't try to make the police's job harder, trying to find them. If it's really out of their hands, it's out of their hands. But a lot of parents can't do that, and it comes from a good place. But I think one of the best things you probably could do is turn them in.
Yeah, I think that would be very hard, but I don't think it always comes from a good place. I think that, you know, the parents that might need to be held responsible are the ones that really don't want to take responsibility and don't want their child to take responsibility for any of the actions.
I think I'm just a hopeful thinker.
Yeah, I am a hopeful thinker too, but I also want to present
real.
that side of things.
That's real.
That there are genuinely some parents that have no intention of allowing their child to pay for
Anything.
the
That's
mistakes
real.
that they've made.
Great point.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about the other side of this, right? 3 ways parents can be more accountable for their children's actions.
I like that.
Make the commitment to talk with children regularly. It is hard. So many things take our time, so many things that we are doing. And also, as parents, the world has changed so freaking much that trying to keep up with everything, and in many instances, our kids know more than we do in certain things. So
I love that you just said that.
Oh my gosh! So that the world is topsy-turvy for you, and so there are things that you won't approach because you don't know how to approach them, or because you're scared. Figure it out. When I mean figure it out, there's a lot of information out there for parents to be able to learn how to talk with their children, have family meetings, but not because you're talking about bad things, but that you want to do check-ins, do one-on-one check-ins with your child, but figure out ways to talk about the things that are going on in their lives and in society. And yes, if you were raised in my generation, and even those maybe a couple behind me, you may not have been raised to have these kinds of conversations, but we're not in that generation anymore. I mean, we're not in those times anymore. We would be from them, but we're not in them.
For real.
So, gotta learn to have these regular conversations.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a kid who, you know, benefited from having these regular conversations. You know, my parents definitely, you know, took pride in creating those spaces for my older brother and I. And so there's nothing but good, long-lasting effects having that strong relationship with your parents. And so, yeah, I'm just an advocate for that. Keep the door open, right? Like, a curious kid is not a detriment to your life.
Right.
It's actually an addition, I promise you. They're gonna stretch you even more than naturally, just the natural order of parenting will, so.
And it's hard when you have a child that doesn't want to talk, but think about, look for ways to get them to.
Yeah, just
Maybe
to
it's
amplify
not the
that
formal
voice.
meeting, it's, you know, going out for some ice cream, or going just for a walk, or sitting and playing a game, or something that comes up. But it really is important to have regular
And
conversations.
you guys did it right. I just want to say, like, you know, I had check-ins with you, I had check-ins with Dad, and then I had check-ins with my older brother, right? So much of those family meetings from very, very young, even days where I could not form words yet, have played nothing but a good, lasting role in my life as far as the conversations that I can have and the trust that's built in our household. So I just want to say that, you know, those early days definitely have informed so much of what's going on in my life after.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
It's good stuff.
Weigh the dangers of present society for the things that you are exposing your children to. So specifically, I was thinking about maybe when you were coming up, right? It was cool to have a gun because the family went hunting, or it was a family kind of a tradition, a rites of passage. Again, we are not in those times anymore. Look at the society that we are in and really weigh the present dangers of just doing what has always been done.
For sure.
That, to me, I think is incredibly important. You know, mothers don't do this, dads don't do this, or moms should do this, or dads should. Hey, look. We already talked about the village, right? That it takes a village to raise a child. You got to go against the grain sometimes to get it done. And look at what this society is. We are in a society where parents are not the experts on technology. We're not the experts on social media and the effect that that has on our kids' lives. We used to talk about peer pressure. Peer pressure is like 1,000,000 times personified by social media these days. So the society, maybe you were ready for whatever this thing is because it was a tradition in your family, but maybe your children aren't, because society has forced so many things on them that they've not been ready for.
I love that. I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. That's a really, really good point. Really, really good points. I like it.
Thank you. And the last is develop and thoroughly discuss a safety plan. Right? I remember, stop, drop, roll, fire plan. Right? But hey, you can laugh, but
that was a safety plan.
It was a safety plan.
Clearly it worked for
right?
A certain time.
Yeah, so what's the safety plan if your child really doesn't feel like they have anyone to go to? What do they do? If your child is struggling with something, what do they do?
Yeah,
like really
for sure.
Have a safety plan. You need a safety plan for so many things these days because so much is out there popping off. But we don't tend to really think about what might be something terrible that's happening that could happen that we would really need a safety plan for. I think that that's something that we need to, and rehearse them.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Get the
can't
practice
just
in.
write it up, here's it on the wall. Yeah.
Practice it. Mm-hmm. Practice it. I'd say even practice it in times where it's like, not scheduled practice time, kind of like catch people on their toes, make sure they're ready for things like that. And 100% I agree with that. And I even back to your last point too, I think it's important. I love how you were talking about, just time periods and past, present, and future, right? I know there's so many people out there who who don't like to look back.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, that happened how many years ago? Like, I wasn't even alive. Like, we hear that with the slavery talk and all that stuff, but, we hear it with stuff like this too, right? But I think that, especially if you are that person, I think that's why your second point matters even more, right? Look at what's happening right now. And you can see right now clearly that violence is a market, right? Like it's profitable. It's all these things, right? And so to your third point, right? Having a few of those just immovable stilts, those things that you can return to that just give you the security to feel like, I can get through this, or I can go to this person when I feel like I can't get through this, or I have this outlet to help me out when I'm really feeling down, or really feeling like, just something bad's gonna happen, whatever it is, right? It's just a few of those real immovable stilts, I think, will just provide so much more security. And, if you can have that introduced to you by a parent or by any sort of authority figure, then that's even way more of a blessing than you know.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, this is a little less heavy for me, but still. Listen, parents, I'm going to say this. I've made my mistakes. I can make a list of things that I wish I had done differently with my kids. There is no question about that. So I am not laying this on you as one more thing, because I know what it feels like to be one more thing that parents are going to be blamed for. But the reality is we really can do better, but we always can do better. But there are things that I think that the society, present day society, is hopefully forcing us to think about and to seek answers for. And if this is happening, and that right now parents may be arrested for a horrible crime that their child has committed, and you don't know where the next stretch is going to go, meaning you don't know if it's going to stop at horrible crime or if it's going to trickle down to something lesser, that it really is time to take this seriously and look at ways to avoid some of the really harmful mistakes.
I agree. Yeah, I'll just agree with that. I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings or wish jail or prison on nobody, but I mean, just do one thing and you're gonna get that outcome. Do another and you're gonna get a different outcome. Yeah. So it's really that simple, right? It's up to you. What feels like justice, and it's up to you what feels like supporting your kids, but. I ain't gonna lie, some of y'all need to go if we're being completely real, but that's just how I feel about it. Some of y'all gotta go, and y'all kids, I ain't gonna lie. But this was great. We're gonna come back with some less heavy stuff, I promise. I just think there's so much going on in the world, and so little productive conversation and or just healthy conversation, right? Healthy discourse about these different, just difficult things that we're all going through. And so, seriously, we really are just here to bring these to you, just to offer that space and offer, just a real
points for you too.
Yeah, but also just a real visual to show, like, we can disagree, we can be on completely different sides of an issue, right? And multi-generational perspectives, all the things. And we can still get some real answers, and we can really, come closer together as opposed to farther apart. We're here to be closer together. Yep. Like, I think a lot of people have lost sight of that, but we genuinely are here to bring people together, right? And so if we are out here supporting the deletion of people and of their beliefs and just, throwing them away like trash, then that's not what we're not living up to what this world is supposed to be lived by. So
well said.
That's how I feel about that.
Yes. Well, we thank you for joining us. Thank you for every like, subscribe, every share, everything that you are doing to support this show. You can catch us a lot of places.
Yes. Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku. Pretty sure we're on LG as well, too. Yes. That's pretty cool. You can catch us on YouTube at Working It Out TV Show. You can also catch us on LinkedIn at Working It Out Across Generations. I'm pretty sure Facebook as well is Working It Out Across Generations. Guys, you know what we say. Conflict is here to teach you something about yourself, right? So please go find out what that is.
Yes, so I am Dr. Lynn.
And I'm Justin.
And thank you for tuning in to Working It Out Across Generations.
See you next week.
Yeah. You and I are kind of similar. You may even be more good-hearted than me. I feel like you. Well,
but in our longing hearts, we're all the same.
Mutual respect and
Yes.
a boundary might have been crossed that you, right?
That's
So
right.
just an example
That's a
of,
great example.
it is a great example. I appreciate that for
Yeah.
giving me the example to even work with.
Let's be the change we want to see.
I've never seen differences negative. I've always been attracted to and intrigued by it. But we're looking for how are we similar? How are we the same? How can we all just get along?